This is our first. So, Ash,
This is your first one?
This is our first.
It's already recording.
So I'm the first. Wow.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Today is a very special day. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I got a lot of jitters in my stomach. I'll tell you why later. Today is the day we're going to talk about real talk in real estate. And I got an incredible guest. My first guest, a good friend. This guy is like family, Ryan Serravalle from REVEL Realty. And we're going to talk a lot about real estate. But before we get into real estate, Ryan, let's talk about basketball and a little bit about yourself, and forget the real estate stuff. I know we're here to talk about real estate, but I want to talk about basketball, and let's just tell everybody who you are and your upbringing and a little bit about Ryan Serravalle outside of real estate.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Basketball has been a big component of my life. Ever since I was a little kid, I fell in love with the sport. It's funny because, I was born from immigrant Italian parents who pushed us into the sport of soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I fell in love with this sport of basketball, and it's been so good to me. I had the opportunity to play on various teams at various levels. Yeah, I'm
touch it, man.
I'm most comfortable when I'm holding this.
There is no feeling for those who play basketball. You know where I'm going with this, but Ryan,
it's just a touch.
Just that touch of it, like you playing so many years in your life. Like, is this one of the most nostalgic, best feelings? And I'm just being one of those guys because I'm a big baller myself. But
you know what? I used to sleep with the basketball, and my parents thought something was wrong with me. But I used to wash it before I brought it into my bed. But yeah, going back, it's just been such an integral part of my life, growing up, my teenage years, my 20s. It gave me opportunity to travel the world and meet incredible mentors and leaders along the way, be influenced by so many incredible minds, and then to apply those principles and methods into business now in my current life is just it's truly a blessing.
So Holy Cross, I pulled up some stats here.
Oh, you did.
I'm a stats guy. Anybody who knows me in the real estate world, I'm a stats guy. So this was really cool. I love one of my favorite stats that I seen was a 37% field goal average in your 2001-2002 series. Do you remember that 2001-2002 year? And 37% is amazing.
So that was my senior year at Holy Cross. We won the Patriot League championship title that gave us the automatic berth to play in the NCAA tournament that year. So I definitely remember that season.
4 rebounds per game, like.
Yeah, you know what?
Man.
My coach always encouraged that grit and toughness. He always said, "You're an immigrant kid. Get in there and get dirty," So, yeah, I would go in amongst the taller players and really fight for those rebounds.
And you were point guard.
I was the point guard, yes.
So here's a question I love to always ask friends. I coach basketball as well, so I always ask kids and I ask friends and whatnot. I say, if you were in the NBA, who's that one player that you would most resemble in terms of like style, grit, everything in growing up in your days and then in today's day and age?
That's a good question. So growing up, I really watched Isaiah Thomas of the Detroit Pistons. He was around 6 feet, played for the Bad Boys in the 80s, so he had that toughness to him, which I really loved. He can handle the ball fantastically, and so he was an individual. I actually had the opportunity to meet him.
Wow.
When I was 16 years old, when I played for the first Toronto Raptors high school all-star game. And it was a special weekend because the anticipation was he was going to be in attendance for the entire weekend. And it was a Friday night, a Saturday, and the game was on Sunday. And he wasn't there Friday and Saturday. So when the game started on Sunday, I was a little disappointed, thinking, it was the inaugural year of the Toronto Raptors. And when the game started, I'm on the bench, and I see across the court, he's sitting with his mother eating popcorn.
Wow.
So when I checked in, I remember my mother from the crowd like pointing to him, and I said, "Yeah, okay, Ma, I know he's here," you know. So I made sure on a fast break, I did a play where I threw it behind my leg, like between my legs to the trailer for a layup.
Oh my God!
To sort of do something to impress him, because he's a big idol of mine. And at the end of the game, when my team won the game, he was giving out the award. So I was prepping myself to say something to him when it was my turn to go receive the trophy. And when I went to him, I said, "Isaiah, it's a dream come true to meet you." And his response was, "I think I met your mother."
What?
And I was like, "What?" And I look over to my mother in the crowd, and she's jumping up and screaming. So she had went through security during the game and got a picture with Isaiah Thomas, which I actually have in my workout room today. So it's a cool memory meeting him.
Thomas, man. For those that don't know Isaiah Thomas, I know our generation, Ryan and I were talking, making jokes about this. Our generation is ridiculous in terms of knowing some key players in sports, and it dates us a little, right? But like, I mean, guys, like I when you think of like some of the best rebounders in the history, like you got Dennis Rodman's a beast. Barkley, when I talk to my boys that I coach, they don't have a clue. So bringing up Isaiah Thomas, I hope that they understand that that's a massive player to meet. So
yes.
In today's day and age, Ryan, if you were playing in the NBA, whose style would you most be compared to?
You know what? I love the way Curry shoots the ball. I mean, obviously at my size, I had to be able to shoot the ball from long distance. So I think Steph's game is very creative. I love the way how smooth he is. He's always smiling in the game, so it looks like he's really enjoying it. So I'd probably look at his game today.
And number 13, is there a reason why you chose number 13? Or was it the one? Was it the only number left, or was it?
No,
did you wear that in high school or?
Yeah, I was 31 when I was in grade 8, and we won our championship in grade 8. And then when I went to high school, I flipped the number to 13. But actually, in the Italian culture, 13 is a good luck number.
Wow.
So it actually, ever since I switched it to 13, it served me well in high school, and then I carried it over to my university days.
I've always loved that number personally because of one of my favorite athletes, Dan Marino.
Oh, Marino.
In the 80s. 13 was a big number for me too.
Yeah.
So
never won a Super Bowl, but a great quarterback.
Again, talking to boys these days, and it's like, hey, when I coach at rep football, same thing. It's like I bring up Montana, Marino. They're like, who? Could he run? No, he threw a lot. So moving on with the basketball theme, and listen, like we are going to talk a lot about real estate, no doubt, but I think this podcast is going to excel versus a lot of others, in my honest opinion, is we're trying to always be as real and relatable as possible. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of podcasts out there, and we're kind of sick and tired of a lot of them. I think there's a lot of good ones. There's a lot that shoot the repetitive stuff. Yep. And sometimes you don't get to know the guests as good as you can, and you don't learn enough about them. You don't learn about how they became so successful. They might just start talking about maybe some big breaks in life. But I love always relating success to sports, and that's actually one of our topics that we're talking about. So pivoting, I mean, if anybody watched Friends and the whole pivot scene, that thing's never going to get old. But anytime I say to our real estate team, and even in basketball, and we're talking about pivoting, give us an example in basketball in terms of or an analogy of how you pivoted in your career and then relate it to real estate. And I mean, we pivot 24/7 in real estate.
Yeah. So when you speak about pivot in the game of basketball, for those of who don't understand what it actually means, is to be three-dimensional in a sense, right? When you catch the ball, one foot obviously is planted. You can either do one of three things. You can shoot the ball in simple terms. You can pass it, or you can start to dribble, right? So by keeping that pivot foot. So it's multidimensional in the game of basketball. And if I relate that to real estate, when I got into the industry, I just didn't want to be considered one-dimensional in the sense where I didn't want them to say, okay, Ryan is good at just new construction. You had to be knowledgeable in other facets of the business. So I was really keen on learning about new construction, while at the same time being educated on commercial, at the same time really becoming a specialist in resale, and then adding, eventually luxury to that component.
And that's That's huge, Ryan, because a lot of people, this is like a very debatable topic where a lot of people will say, well, you should only craft or be a specialist of one craft. You should only, if you want to do pre-construction, just do pre-construction. I know there was a time where a lot of professionals in this industry were saying just focus on one
Right.
craft. But when you look at this market right now, look at the last couple of years, if you only focused on just pre-con or land development or residential, I mean, you will get better at it, no doubt. But I feel like that three-dimensional approach, it's pretty cool to say to a client, say, you know what, Mr. Client or Miss Client, I can, yes, I can find you the land. We can assemble it. We got the marketing to do the pre-con, and then we can touch our residential database. So if you have all these facets of your I guess tools, that's huge. And I think that's where pivoting comes in.
I totally agree. Taking the example of an individual like Steph Curry, if he's not shooting the ball well one evening, if he was one dimensional, then he wouldn't be effective, right? Yeah. So because he's able to still pass and dribble the ball at a high level, it's very relatable to what you just mentioned, Ryan, in real estate.
Even now, I play. I still play. I'm hurt.
I saw your jump shot in Murphy's league there. You look pretty good. You can shoot. You have some range.
I still, when my body is giving it its all, I still ball.
Yeah.
But what you just said is so huge because I'm trying to instill this with our kids, and so I think it's the hardest thing is like when you keep shooting, for example, in basketball, and if you are a shooter, you're gonna have bad nights, right?
Right.
But shooters shoot. But you got to change and you got to adjust your game. If you're having an off night in shooting, well, basketball is not just about shooting. Increase the passing, increase your defensive intensity.
Right.
Just be a disturber on the court and disrupt everything. And then you're contributing to the team. It's not about just your shots. You got to create shots too with other teammates. So that pivoting aspect, I think, is massive from basketball into real estate.
And you know what? Taking the market last year that we had in real estate, it was a challenging year. New construction did slow down. Mm-hmm. So if you have these abilities to pivot and be effective, maybe with some commercial leasing or residential leasing, you can still have a very productive year. If you're introduced to these other facets of the business. And I tell a lot of the realtors with us at Revel is to be more than three-dimensional today. You have to be effective in other avenues as opposed to just one facet.
A lot of successful realtors I talk to, they actually will say things like, oh, I started my career doing leases because that's all I could get. Or I had to go door knocking, or I had to go and just start getting on the phone. Like there's all sorts of different ways to get going in your early career. And one of the big things we're going to do in this podcast throughout all of these shows is we are going to help out other realtors who are struggling. Yeah. I want to share tips. At the same time, I'm going to call out a lot of shady realtors. I'm not going to get specific. I'm not going to use name calling, but I am going to pull out articles.
Yeah.
I'm also going to just try to
share
put
that
a positive spin on this industry that's so tainted at times. And we'll get into that another time. But here's one of my last kind of sports related for now questions is, what was your most significant injury and how did you overcome it? And then how would you tie that into like one of your biggest obstacles in your career, in your early career in real estate, and how did you overcome that?
That's a great question. So that takes me back to my second year at Holy Cross. I suffered a meniscus tear in my left knee. I was the starting point guard. We were on pace to start the season off very well. We had just beaten Providence in Connecticut.
Huge.
We just lost to Boston College, where I got injured. And what happened was I had to get my meniscus repaired almost immediately. And they were telling me it was a 4 to 6 week recovery that I would be able to return back to the season. But what happened was when I did return, I had lost my starting position. Oh. And when I got back in, my coach didn't just grant me back my starting position because, not that I was a little bit out of shape, but I just, being off for 6 weeks at that level was a little difficult. So what I had to really discover, number one, I had to really fight back to earn my position. But the individual who had taken it wasn't going to give it up very easy either. So we battled. We had to battle every single day from there on in. I did feel a little intimidated at the beginning. I'm not going to lie. until I really just faced fear right in the eye and said, instead of trying to go around it,
Right.
I decided I had to go right through it. And when I did that, I earned my position back.
Wow.
And if I looked at that and relate that to my business career, the same sort of philosophy exists. There's a lot of times where I'm afraid in the industry. I think a lot of us tend to doubt maybe ourselves at certain times, but instead of shying away from that, whatever challenge that it may be, one of my biggest challenges was creating my own brand, REVEL, and going against these conglomerate companies who have been around for decades. There is a sense of intimidation there, but the model was, you face it, you head on, you go through it, and it actually strengthens you in the end, and it really shows you what you have built deep within you.
Did you have to do a ton of just extra hours in the gym or working out that much harder, like to get back your position? That's a big thing. Like, what did you tell the coach? Hey, listen, I'll do everything in terms of I'll just go in and set picks. I'll just go in, and even if it's a minute here and there, like, what was that grind?
It was honestly, it was a battle. Every practice was a battle. Every drill was a battle. I had to come first in every sprinting drill.
Jeez.
It was just showing that my mindset was that I wanted to prove that I earned my position back. And it was a really big turning point in my life, because it really showed me the issue of overcoming these fearful moments and doubt within yourself. And I could accept not attaining it by giving everything that I had. And but luckily it worked out, and I was able to get back my position.
That's kind of it's gonna lead us into the whole real estate dog eat dog world, right? A lot of things, a lot of different companies, a lot of different mentalities in real estate, and I think a lot of people that don't know the whole history of REVEL, they need to know like the inception of REVEL. And I guess the big thing here is just the timeline from like just before you started REVEL to when REVEL started. Like what was that tipping point where you were like, okay, I need to change the game. I need to pivot. I need to get the here in order to be happy. What was that?
Yeah. So I had been a realtor for about 6 to 7 years. And at that point I would say I was selling at a very high level. I wanted the next step of growth in my career, but I was also part of an industry where I was from that to me was very stale. And it was very individualized. I mean, it's even in our namesake, right? Independent contractors, right? We work on our own. We're lonely people, and coming from a strong sports background, I was exposed to teamwork and achieving things together, collectively. And I thought if I could apply those same team principles in the format of a brand and a brokerage, at that point I was offered to take a leadership role with existing franchise companies, but I still wanted to go this other route, this other pathway. I knew it was going to be very difficult and very challenging. But in the same sense, my entire life was always in that path, again, born of immigrant parents, as an underdog. We felt like underdogs.
Nothing was given. You had to fight.
Yeah.
I think that's...
And the same thing playing at the Division I level. We weren't like a high profile team. We were a lower Division I team, but we still played against them. So I actually felt comfortable in that underdog mentality mindset. It kept me sharp. It kept me motivated. It kept me determined. And I thought if I could take that avenue and create this brand that was very positive, very team oriented, that we could challenge the norm in the industry. And that was, and create a winning culture, because I was part of losing cultures and winning cultures. And there's a significant difference.
Have you ever done jiu-jitsu?
What's that?
Have you ever done jiu-jitsu?
I know I was karate for many years when I was young, but never jiu-jitsu.
There's a thing about jiu-jitsu, if you've ever taken that art. Jiu-jitsu is all about being put on the ground, and it's about when you fall. It's like how you fall. It teaches you that there's a way to fall and there's a way to get back up, but there's a way to defend yourself. And jiu-jitsu is one of those crazy arts that I feel everybody should have a few years under your belt, because when you learn that fear of falling down and how to embrace it, there's nothing that can be a concern or a worry in your way. So
yeah, I think it's a great application for life, because we're all going to get pushed down and fall, right? And it's how you fight to step up and move forward, right? So I think that's a great. I did karate for many years, and it was, but it wasn't as serious as jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu is intense, man. I
Yeah.
highly recommend it. So Revel was like a calling for me when we met, and it was a massive fresh breath of air. But my frustration in this industry, since I've been a realtor, I'm going on 9 years.
Yeah.
And my frustration being with 3 of the top big brokerages in Canada was that it was always the same thing. Didn't matter what brokerage I was a part of. It was competitive. People ate each other up. You couldn't share ideas. You couldn't collaborate. You're walking out of the office with a CMA, and everybody's looking at you, asking you, "Hey, where'd you get it? Who?" Everybody was so competitive, and for years, I came to that point where I said there has to be something different in the industry. This independent contractor, lonely world is not. This is not our destiny. So there has to be a culture, and this is literally the words we were using when we were trying to figure out what are we going to do. And I just needed a massive change in my life. I needed a different. It wasn't about awards. It wasn't about talking about who's the top 1%, 10%. That was
Right.
that shit doesn't exist in our style. We don't run with that. We just wanted to work with fellow agents in this, almost like in a world of utopia. We were looking for this amazing culture, and I can't believe how long it took us to find it. But this is kind of cool how your big reason for creating this opportunity is so that we can collaborate, and that there is culture, and that we can share ideas. So the thing with Revel right now, and I mean, you got how many offices now? 20.
So we're at 26 right now.
26 offices. Yeah. The formula is working.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great brands out there, and there's a lot of great companies, and I just think there's a right fit for each individual, right, to find where they could be successful in their own right. Almost like you're a fan of sport. You have your team, and I have my team, and whatever is relatable to the individual, I think actually applies in the real estate world. But for me, the biggest essence was what I realized is it is a competitive industry, and a lot of people warn me, you bring in this team philosophy into a brokerage, when it comes down to financial gains, people might struggle with that. And I applied it to when I played basketball. We were all trying to get scholarships when we were playing at a high level in high school, in all-star games. But in the end, if we collaborated together and we won the game, then everybody could benefit along the way. And it was that mindset that we wanted to apply to Revel, and we still continue to be cognizant of that, is to protect the culture. And it's proven well so far.
What advice would you give to any of my amazing U14 rep ballers right now, if they're going to be listening to this, and or at least if I can take it into our next practice in terms of because you went through the grind from all sorts of rep ball to high school. Like right now, these boys are going into grade 9 this year. So what's something that I can tell them on Monday to fire them up? I need something intense. That's how Ryan Serravalle coaching. So I coached
for a few years. The more you invest into something, the harder it will be to surrender. And what I mean by that is you have to invest into your craft. They have to practice every single day. I would feel bad if I took a day off training. I would never take a day off because I always knew someone else was training in those moments. And when it came down to those tough moments in games, because I had invested so much into my craft, it was almost like something universal that would come from me that would just give me the energy or the strength to get through a tough moment or make a great play, because it was not that it was owed, but it was sort of deserved in a sense, right?
I'm chuckling in my head because I remember you told me a story and this grind and these extra hours that you put in. Take me through the story about when you and Fonso would be going into in those cold nights, man, when you're in this, what was it, the warehouse?
Yeah, so, I had a rival growing up, and his father was a high school teacher and basketball coach, and he had access to the gym after hours. I wasn't allowed to go to my high school gym because of insurance reasons, so I went to my father. He had an old rundown warehouse, grease. It was actually an old body shop. It had like metal walls. It was infested with rats and mice.
Balls were not looking this clean.
No,
right?
they weren't. They actually, the balls were completely black. You didn't see
Oh.
anything. And it was a plywood for a backboard and a rim, which was all black. And when you would do a layup and the ball would come down, all the black would be under my eyes.
Oh man.
And I would spend hours and hours there, and Alfonso would rebound for me, and my friends would come and say, okay, we have to go out. And I would pick 10 spots where I had to hit 10 in a row. And I would not leave until I did that, along with other stuff. I used to come home. My mother used to say, Ryan, why can't you be like the other kids? Because my eyes were black, my hands were black. I had to use that I forget what it was. It was like a solution that had grit in it in order to take the grease out. Mechanics use that. So, and I had to feel the ball. And then when the ball got cold, I brought an extra ball by a heater, and we would heat it up, and we would switch it out. So we spray painted the 3-point line. Again, when you bounce, the line would go away because of the dirt. But when I would play in any game in my career, and I played at high levels in high school and all-star games in Division I and in the pros in Europe, it just, whenever there was a tough moment or a situation, when I would revert back to those moments of training, it just gave me that resilience to fight through it. And I think same in business and for young kids playing the sport or any sport, is they have to go through those tough times. It builds resilience, it builds toughness, it builds work ethic that can be applied for the rest of their lives, whatever avenue they pursue. With us in real estate, that's probably why I feel comfortable in this real estate world, is because it's a competitive world, it's a challenging world, and it takes that resilience and grit and that continual determination, right? So that's why people question, why would you leave teaching to go to real estate? It's where I feel most comfortable.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Ryan was a religion teacher.
Yeah, I was a religion teacher. I was a social science teacher. Wow. The principal put me in phys ed for a little bit. I had the opportunity to teach 3.5 years, and I did teach religion. I'm a very devout individual. Yeah, I grew up very religious. My parents were religious. I was an altar boy for 10 years. My oldest brother was for 17 years. So I'm very devout in that regards. I'm very faithful. And everything in my life I owe to God and His blessings, for sure.
I love that. Who did you lean on the most for support from the real estate side of the world when you started your first Revel location? When you came up with the idea and the marketing, like, who was that one person that you can say was a huge rock in your corner?
I'd have to say it was my father. That was my biggest influence and support.
God bless your father, man.
Yeah,
I know you and I, we both have something in
connection there. Yeah. Very lucky. I mean, he I'll never forget when I showed him the floor plan to Revel, and he looked at it and said, double the size. And I said, what? Are you crazy? It was just me and my wife at the time just helping me with the deals. And he was a business visionary in the sense to look forward and work hard one day at a time, but also a very humbling man in the sense where you have to be grateful for each and every day and for whatever you achieve, to never become greedy, to always do the right ethical thing in business. And at the end of the day, you would set a good example for your children. And he really taught me that true essence. He came to this country with nothing. Him and my mother worked really hard to build a very reputable business, and he had a great career himself. So I was very blessed and lucky to have his influence in my career.
Like when he knew, what was his reaction when you were going from teaching to real estate? Like, because you go to school, you get your degree, and then you become an awesome teacher, and I know immigrant parents. I'm an immigrant myself. I know, like, my parents would be like, "Huh, you're switching like your whole education."
Yeah, you know what? At first he was like, "You're gonna leave. You have beautiful air conditioning every single day." That was a big thing for him, and he didn't want to see me struggle the way he struggled, obviously, in business, and my mother as well. But he did tell me that if I did pursue it, that I would do well, because I was honest and hardworking, and if I stuck to that, those values and morals, that good things would eventually come from it.
Did your father or your mother, like, did your parents or even you, before you got into real estate, did you ever have a horrific experience with a realtor selling or buying? And the reason I ask this is because I've had multiple scenarios before I got into real estate. And that is honestly one of the reasons why I got into real estate, was because of all the negative experiences that I seen with 3 realtors that either helped buy or sell a home for me or my family.
Right. So I actually had the opposite. My parents were investing into industrial and commercial real estate. And when I got older and got interested in real estate, I told them I would do research and hire a very good commercial realtor for them.
Right.
And I sat in the meeting, and I was actually very impressed with how he did his business, how he was advising my parents. That really motivated me to say, you know what, like, this is encouraging for me to enter into the industry. So in the opposite sense, I was very lucky to have a good experience that sort of motivated me to enter the business.
And that's what I hope to do for my kids in the future. Not my basketball
For sure.
kids. I always relate to them, but basketball kids. But no, my family.
Yeah.
I got a son and a daughter, and I hope that, like, one of my dreams is that they've seen so much of me in the real estate world that they've seen a lot of the good side. I don't want to share the negative side, but
well, there's negative everywhere, right?
But I hope that one day they can really appreciate what this legacy that I'm trying to leave, and I really hope that one day that one of them, at least one of them, can say, hey, you know what, I want to go out and see what you do on a daily, and I want to show them how beautiful real estate is and why real estate is a career that a lot of people should consider.
Something stuck with me. You know, my father was in business and my mother, and they worked extremely hard, many hours a day. And he never came home and complained about work. And he was there 6 a.m, sometimes till 6, 7 at night.
Wow.
And when I became a teacher and I would go to the staff room, unfortunately, I would hear people counting down the days for retirement. And I said to myself, I never heard my father speak once about his industry. And what I learned about it was that you have to do something that you're passionate about. So I have a 12-year-old boy, Leonardo, and a 9-year-old daughter, London, and they hear me speak about business, and I'm very cautious because we do have struggling days in real estate, right? Yeah. To always speak properly, and for them to see that I'm passionate about what I do every single day, and I hope that they can find their passionate avenue as they get older. Yeah,
you got to lead by example, and it's pretty cool as our kids grow up and they can start to understand what we go through. I joke around once in a while with the kids, and I tell them a funny story. There's always a lot of funny stories in real estate, and they'll look at me and be like, that did not happen. I'm like, yeah, I did. I always have a chuckle when my home inspector finds like a raccoon or a skunk or, all those funny things. And I tell the kids, they're like, what? And they get intrigued. So,
well, I see you with your kids and Rosina, and you guys are a great influence to your kids. So you keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, man. It's busy, but we wouldn't trade anything for this industry, Ryan. And you hit it bang on. And a lot of good realtors will say this about the industry, is that when you wake up and it doesn't feel like work, and you're yes, it's a grind. There's a lot of hard work, but when this industry feels like you're just there and you're an extension of people's biggest investment, like it's a big rewarding industry. We wake up, like the great realtors wake up every day. We have a plan. We love what we do. Yeah, we work 24/7 at times. I try not to work on Christmas Day, honestly. Like Christmas Day is like the one day I say I try not to work. But we hustle, and I think the kids do see that hustle.
Yeah, so, for sure.
In terms of this is an interesting question. So, what was your experience having your partner share your journey and success? And by partner, I mean Nikki. So, Nikki is incredible, super powerful woman. Just take us through this power couple.
Yeah, so Nikki was running her own flower shop for 7 years when I was a high school teacher and selling real estate. She was doing a fantastic job for many events and weddings. And then I had decided I was going to leave teaching and go full tilt into real estate, and open up my own brand. And she was approached to sell her flower shop at that time. And I sort of recruited Nikki. I was like, I need you to come on board with me. She worked in the banks when she was younger. She's a very intelligent woman. She's a very hardworking woman. And I think we share the same sort of aspirations and goals. We're very both self-driven. And I knew I needed her alongside me in order to create this avenue. And she was as excited as I was. And, we started with me out there selling. We had young kids. She would be working from home late at night. I remember the office light open till 1 or 2 in the morning. I would come with files of deals home, asking her to process the deals. She was the accounting coordinator. She was the deals admin. She was doing everything. Yeah. So until it got, it started to grow, and I said, okay, Nikki, we have to hire some help for you. But, this journey, having her alongside me, I wouldn't be able to be where I was without her support. Absolutely not.
You guys are beyond super motivational. Every time we hear you guys speak, whether it's individually or as a couple, it's one of those things that I think a lot of realtors don't have with other brokerages. And again, I'm not talking down on the big brands, but the one big selling feature I think about you and Nikki and being the face of REVEL is that we could see you at the Christmas party or the charity events or the tip-off. And we're going to talk about tip-off in just a minute, because that is actually coincidentally around the corner, and it's the best name ever. But whenever we're at these events, and my staff says it, my agents, brand new agents, they say that just going up and saying hello to you and Nikki, it's such an honor. It's a little different when you go to the top dogs, and these guys or ladies have maybe, I don't know, thousands of realtors. So in their defense, they can't, it's not the same, but this is where that boutique culture lives, and it lives through you two, and everybody really does talk highly of it. So that's just a big blessing that we got.
Thank you for that. I mean, defense to the big brands, I mean, they're larger, right? So we have an advantage in that sense, where we can connect to as many as you as possible, and to have those opportunities to meet all these wonderful people is truly a blessing. So Nikki and I take that very serious, to always make sure we try to be the best example as we can be.
Do you think starting a business in real estate, in the real estate industry, comes with unique challenges, especially given the instability of real estate in general, knowing that it's always up and down, up and down?
Yeah, it's very scary to start a business in real estate. It's so unpredictable, right? For sure, and you don't know what you're going to get from day to day, month to month, year to year. So I think that what's important for realtors is how to budget properly, right? We had some really good years, and I'm hoping that a lot of realtors were cautious in the sense that they didn't expect the market was going to stay like that for their entire career, right? So I think we all have to be prepared to be cautious. Again, raised from poor immigrant parents, always taught to save for a rainy day, and I understand that. And I think a lot of people need to be educated in that sense, because this business can be great, but it could also be very unforgiving if you're not careful. And I think when we look at the higher level of real estate and education, I think that should be brought to the attention of a lot of realtors entering the business.
And lately, when we've had newer agents that want to join our Burlington location, in this very turbulent market over the last 6 months or a year, I've had a lot of these newer agents ask me, they're asking if it's okay to have a part-time job. And I say, of course. For me to say no and dive into this very stressful market, that's a big differentiator with myself and other leaders out there. There's certain leaders that will say, numbers, let's go. And there's that part of me where I just know the reality, and I don't want people to just come in and then bail out within a month or 2 or 3 because they just couldn't survive. And we've seen a lot of that. So I'm always trying to tell people and potential agents that just save for a rainy day, budget, come in with modest expectations, because all these beautiful shows like Selling Sunset and whatnot, hey, glamorous, they make millions, sure, but no, it's not like that at ground level.
So I'll give you a good sports analogy that I learned in my upbringing is I always went and played against the best player on every team, and I asked him if he would practice with me, play one-on-one with me, night in and night out, at every level that I played at. And I got my butt kicked many nights, many days. I left frustrated, but without knowing, I got better. And the same thing in real estate, in a tough market. If it was me as a young realtor today, I would be shadowing people like you. I would be calling you many times in the day, Rene. I would be following you to appointments, seeing how you interact with your clients. How are you generating business? Because there are realtors in this business who do a great job, who have done very, very well this past year. So these younger realtors need to surround themselves with those types of people, and not the fluff ones that go out, like the real authentic realtors who are performing, who know how to do it, who have done it for 20 years plus. And if you do that, then you can find your way in this industry. And no matter what the market sends you, you're still going to be effective one way or another.
I love that, Ryan. I love it so much because I'm going to use that on Monday's practice. And coincidentally, we have an exhibition game against a higher division team on our rep in our rep Burlington League. They're the B team, we're the C team.
Okay.
But it's funny because they were all originally like, "What do you mean we're going to play a better team?" And I'm like, "Guys," I said, and it's funny because I touched on that. I'm like, "Listen, first of all, they're our family because they're the Burlington team. They're just one level up." But I said, like, you're going to learn a ton, and we're there to help you. And it's not like you're going to play a different city where it's a little different when you're playing like extremely competitive. Here we are going to go and learn from the better division.
Yeah,
So
you have to.
That analogy, I think, ties in with so much. And shadowing is huge. Mentoring. It's one of the things that all my life I've always done with friends, family, kids. I mean, it's why I coach. Whatever little bit of knowledge that I have that I can help someone with, I'm willing to share any of my trade secrets. And I had a lot of fun with Kate Braddock. We've done several trainings in Brantford and other co-head coaches. Like, that's the beauty. Like, I can go to them and ask them, how are you kicking butt in this weird market? And they'll tell me, or vice versa. We can just share ideas. And I think, to your point, like surrounding yourself with people who have been in the industry even longer than me. I'm a baby still, 9 years. There's people that have been in the industry 20 30 years.
Double your
40.
time. And that's important for us to attract, like you mentioned, Kate, and many other great leaders that we have across the province of Ontario. Right. And they're all wonderful people, as you met, right? So you put them all in one room together, and magic happens because they're generous, they're selfless, they're just fantastic people. And again, that's who you want to surround yourself with because it just raises everybody's game.
Yeah, and I think like putting these 26 leaders in one room, it's like an all-star game.
Yeah, so this takes me back again to my basketball days. It was my senior, actually it was my junior year, my third year, and my coaching staff had changed, so a new coaching staff came in, and they told me that they were recruiting a player from New York City over me, and that I probably wouldn't play the rest of my career. Jeez. They said he was the best passer in New York City, and they said I could take a look at him because he was actually playing in the prep game at Holy Cross. So I was really shocked at that. I went to watch him, and he was fantastic. He was just a special player. And I was put in a situation where I had to decide, am I going to transfer, or am I going to come back and then fight and battle for my position? Right. And I decided to go back and battle for my position. And instead of creating enemies with him, I thought, you know what? He's so good that if I worked with him and collaborated with him and taught him what I know, that he could make me that much better, which he did. And we became best friends. We won 2 championships together. We played in the NCAA tournament twice together. And he changed the course of my mindset, that collaboration is much stronger than in the sense of competition. So with that mindset in place at REVEL, I started by sharing everything that I had. So when I opened up REVEL, I had a ton of listings. I had multiple new construction sites. And what I did was I started to share everything that I had, number one, with education and training, but also with my listings and leads with everybody that was joining the brokerage. And the goal was to really educate them and train them, and then they too could then pass that down to their future teams and their future growth. And honestly, that was really the kickstart to why REVEL grew so fast, was because we were, like, right from the onset, the mindset was collaboration.
What advice would you give newer agents and existing agents who have been in the industry to avoid in terms of pitfalls? Because there's so many things that are happening in our industry where people are not getting the right mentorship and they're not getting the right advice. What would you say are like the top 2 or 3 things to just stay away so that you can have that collaboration and that mutual respect with other agents, and then turns into agent referral. So what are those 2 or 3 tips that you have?
So I tell a lot of realtors that enter the business, don't focus on the splits right away. Again, when you enter in any field, when I got into college, I knew I had to pay my dues in order to perform at the next level. Realtors tend to come in, the first thing some of them do is ask about splits. When you're on a team or you're under someone and you're being mentored by someone, there's a cost to that. It's almost an education, like you're going to university to learn. I was on a 50-50 split for 3.5 years. But what I learned from my team leader at the time, my mentor, changed the course of my business career. So I tend to tell people is don't look just at the financial part. Look at what you're learning, what you're gaining, how you're improving, how you're getting better in this industry. Because one day then you'll take on that leadership role. And I love seeing, Revel's been around 10 years, and I've seen agents who have come, at the bottom, and they've followed sort of that plan, and now they have their own teams, 10, 12 people on their teams, and they're performing in the top 5.
That's amazing.
And it's amazing to see that growth that they've achieved, right? So that's one big thing that I've noticed.
And I think you can kind of relate that always to sports and basketball, right? Like year one is, the minutes are limited. They're so limited, and unless someone's getting injured, and then it's your opportunity to shine. Minutes are very, very important. So I think year 2 and 3, it really proves that you've learned a lot of new tricks. You've been around those starters who have been doing things for a few years.
Exactly. It comes with time. It comes with experience. It comes with patience. And this is not an industry where you come in for a year, I didn't do good, it's not for me. It takes years of investment.
Right.
And you know that. You said you've been in 9 years, right?
I love, so with my agents, I show them a spreadsheet. And anytime
you're a stats guy, that's why you should.
Anytime I bring up my spreadsheet or stats, they chuckle. But I'm an open book. And year 1, Ryan, like in this spreadsheet, I show them what I made year 1 and year 2 and 3 and 4. And it's kind of risky because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, it's like, hey, do I really want them to know? But a part of me says, if they can see that it's okay to not have a good year, like especially your first year and second year, and then see where I am right now, where I've improved a lot. I'm still not even remotely close to where I want to be, but surrounding myself around you and other amazing people, I will get there. There's no doubt. It's coming. But I love to show people it's okay to have a very modest year. You just got to keep learning from what you did the previous year. And I think a lot of realtors, where they really fall into this jam is when you ask them, hey, what'd you do your first year? I don't know. Second, do you have a CRM? No.
Yeah.
Spreadsheet? Oh, high school. So it's like, if they don't know if they can't keep track of their record or performance, how do you get better? Imagine in sports. Imagine I didn't know some of these stats about you. Imagine just the analysts, Jack Armstrong. Imagine they don't do their homework on every player, because they do their homework on every player. They have all the information there. So I think if agents just kind of take a step back and just say one thing at a time, right? I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, and we've all started from the ground up, right? Like, it's funny, 2 agents were in my office yesterday, and I shared with them for the first few years, I struggled, right? I would go to family gatherings, in the Italian culture. They knew I didn't sell anything, and they'd say, oh, what did you sell this week? God. To kind of give me a little grinding there. But when I shared this with 2 agents the other day, they actually texted me saying, I didn't know you went through those same struggles. Of course we have, right? Nobody starts at the top, right? You have to earn your levels, right?
I mean, there's some. This is the thing with just some brokerages or teams. They have the luxury of having certain family members that have been in the industry, and they just get it hand down. So I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush. There are some people that are handed down this ridiculous, beautiful portfolio, or just because your parents were in the industry 40 years, they got it a lot easier. I mean, that's life.
That happens. That's life. Yeah.
It's like LeBron, his kid, Bronny, and any superstar. I mean, they have that God-given talent, gift, money, etc. They're going to have an edge over guys like
some other opportunities that others wouldn't have. Right. Yeah.
The difference is there's no chip on anybody's shoulder. That's the one thing that we love about Revel. I like to stress, we don't do awards. We don't talk about the top 1% and all that. We just go in, we collaborate, and tell us about this tip-off idea. Like I love it. I know from a basketball standpoint the whole angle behind it, but tell us how Revel or why Revel decided to make this tip-off and
so
how
the
it's been
tip-off,
benefiting.
I mean, and it starts the game of basketball, right? They
Yeah.
tip off the ball, and it starts the game. So it's a start to the year or the season of real estate. We bring in some really good speakers. We share insight from our top leaders who have performed at various levels. And it's just a good kickstart to the year, right? Some good education, some good forecasting, any new implementation that we're offering into the brokerage, which this is our 10-year anniversary. So we are going to be announcing some cool, exciting things that I think will be game changers for us in our future growth as a company collectively. So it's just, we're excited. We have Jack Armstrong, who will be our keynote speaker. Jack recruited me when he was at Niagara University and I was in high school.
Oh.
Yeah, and I didn't go to Niagara U, but then later when I went to Holy Cross in the Patriot League, Jack Armstrong was the commentator for the Patriot League during my career. So I got to know Jack a little bit and see him quite a bit, and he's just a fantastic individual. And then he obviously does a great job with the Raptors, and he was part of the Raptors' first championship.
I can't wait. A lot of our agents are excited. I mean, just tying in more basketball with Revel. I love it. This is big. So I love talking about that. I think we're getting to a little bit of the nitty gritty here. So here's something really relevant, and I want to end this amazing opportunity with you to talk about some crazy headlines in the news. And there's things that just rot me. And again,
like what? What do you?
There's things right now, and I just want to. I'll probably.
You're bothered. I can see that you're bothered.
I'm bothered. I am. You could. For those that can't see me right now, I'm twitching. Give me that ball. Let me hold on to that. I need something
that'll relax you a little bit.
Let me just hold it. So I have to I love to end this off on a very honest note. And one of the biggest things that's bothered me in the last week or two, and I want a lot of the listeners to just understand that there's a lot of crappy realtors out there that will over-embellish stories, over-embellish news articles. And where I'm going with this, Ryan, I don't know if you heard that. About a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, there was a townhouse. Did you hear about the 65 offers or 70 offer one?
Yeah.
It made CTV News.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they priced it about $250,000 below market value, okay? This podcast is going to be one of those podcasts where we're doing this for the people. We are going to speak up when certain realtors are just making it more frustrating for homeowners, first-time home buyers. The fire's already there because this market's been pretty bad the last couple of years, and buyers are having a hard time affording homes. So the worst thing is, in my opinion, this is like where I'll get your opinion, is when such a headline hits the news, 65, 70 offers, and it's a picture of about 100 people lined up out this door for a semi or a townhouse priced $250,000 below market value, and then they ended up selling it for market value. Other agents are reposting and saying the market is on fire. Hey, fire emojis. Yeah, buyers are back. And like, it really pisses off the public. It pisses off a lot of genuine clients out there who don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that bidding wars are back. It's a one-off. There's a couple one-offs happening in the Oakville, Burlington, GTA area. There's some bidding wars, but my frustration, Ryan, and I don't know if I share the same frustration, but it's just when other agents start to piggyback off of a headline, and they're like, oh yeah, they repost on their story. Yeah, market's back, baby. And it's like, what's your thought on when realtors start to add fuel to fire, and like, how do we try to just kind of work with these scenarios and these other agents?
Unfortunately, because of that press in the Niagara region now, someone had canceled the listing and really underpriced the home to attract a bidding war. And it's actually occurring right now. In regards to that situation, you said it right. It did sell for market value. I believe a lot of the offers were even below the market value, right? So it's unfortunate because, I've been in the industry 17 years, and I truly believe we need to be professionals in this industry. We represent people's most prized possession, right? Like, this is wealth in a home or investment properties that people have received from generations, who have come from nothing, and it needs to be taken seriously. That's why I was asked from Tim Hudak a few years ago. He came and we played basketball on the court, and he asked my opinion in regards to how to elevate the real estate world. And I simply said, in the same sense that, my experience when I had knee surgery, I went to a doctor who was very equipped to do my knee surgery. And I think the same sort of application has to apply in real estate. Is maybe the education needs to be enhanced in order to bring in more serious people in this industry who will represent the clients first and foremost, but also the integrity 100%. Of our business, right? Because when I entered in 17 years, we were referred to as like used car salespeople. Not to dismiss that, but it's just I want to see this industry move forward in the right direction, because as you mentioned earlier, it is a great profession and we can do a lot of good for a lot of families and a lot of people out there. So it's unfortunate that these situations do gain the press, when I think a lot of realtors out there do so many wonderful things for their clients, their communities, that I would rather see gain more press. And
that's you nailed it. I think that's how we're going to end this podcast. Is we want to bring good press to the industry.
Yeah.
I'm going to be frustrated throughout, the next 20, 30, 40 years in this industry. It's never going to be peachy, but
you're young and you can influence in such a positive way and use your platform. And this is a great platform to even share that.
That's what we want the viewers and then listeners to understand, is that not all realtors are the same. We get painted with the same brush over and over, and it's just unfair. You can't paint all industries like this. So I will be as raw as possible throughout these episodes. I'll bring up a couple headlines that are just making me sick. And you know what? I'm always curious.
It's real. It's real. And you're going to be great at it. And you know what? I'm privileged that I'm the first one to kickstart it. So thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And keep up the great work that you're doing.
Well, thank you for being on Real Talk. Done.
Awesome.